Yeah, there's a real good, if you get a chance, I think I've mentioned the book before. It's called How to Fail at Almost Anything and Still Win Big. It's Scott
Dilbert.
Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dilbert guy. He's really really good. He talks about, actually there's two things in there. One is that he talks about affirmations, like writing down the thing, like, and it's crazy. I mean, his story, because he just tried it because someone said to do it, and he wrote down like 15 times a day. He would write down like, I will become a famous cartoonist, or something like that, or a syndicated cartoonist. And like, I mean, if you listen to a story, it was like so small of a shot that, I mean, he wasn't even published at all. His drawing sucked. It was, but he did that, and he did this with multiple things. Like, he's got these things in his life, and he goes on to talk about like why he thinks it's, is there some mystical thing, is it because now your mind is focused on that thing, what is it that now you see opportunities. And he said he doesn't know, it doesn't really matter, but his story is pretty compelling. Just, I mean, the number of things that he wrote down that he actually had the results on. And then he also talks about the idea of which I do a lot, is using a system instead of a goal, right? It just like, and that's the whole thing is like, when I set goals, I usually try to build systems in front of them, like Chuck was saying, and that's a lot more effective, because it's like, I know that, for example, I wanted to get to 100,000 YouTube subscribers, and my system was, well, put out 2 to 3 videos a day. That's like a system I can implement, and that's likely to achieve that goal. So yeah, it's a good book though, if you get a chance to read it.
So lots of good opportunity with this thing, and having sold 150 copies at $9 each, pretty nice little $1,350 bump in my income this month.
But you can probably expect maybe, like, I don't know, I would say like a 20% upgrade rate on those.
Yeah.
I think when you do the launch, that's probably where I'd estimate.
Derek,
good things going there.
Google Trends on Docker looks like you're in a good. It kind of seems like you've locked onto this as like your thing for a while. Like,
yeah,
and
I'm getting some pushback on that, which is part of the conflict I'm having with how I want to move Watch Me Code forward right now, because a couple of people in the big Slack mastermind that I'm in have commented very directly that the Watch Me Code website very directly says screencast for Node.js developers. But when you look through the content, like everything you see up front is Docker, Docker, Docker. Even though a lot of it is Docker, Node.js, Node in Docker, build tools in Docker, it's development stuff in Docker, but it's all centered around Docker. And some of the people are saying that's a pretty big turnoff for them because they want to learn Node.js. I mean, these are other developers currently doing Ruby or whatever language, and they legitimately do want to learn Node, but they see my site and they end up going somewhere else because of that disconnect between the content and the headlines.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the books that we were reading from in Roundtable, which Derek, you weren't here last week when we talked about that, but it's the STAR principle by the same guy who wrote the 80-20 principle. And basically the takeaway from that book is you want to be in a business that's in a market that's growing at least 10% a year. And if you're in a stagnant or declining market, it's almost impossible to grow your company.
Right.
And this is what I hit with Sublime, where my business with Sublime was growing, and then it stagnated. And if you look at the Google trend on Sublime, it overlays exactly where I caught it on the upcurrent. I spotted the opportunity. I jumped on it. I rode the trend up, and then when I really started struggling was when it stopped growing, and when it flatlined. And so I don't know the relative size of these markets, but if I were you, specializing in Docker for a while seems like a smart play. Because if if you
Yeah.
can get established, because that actually solves. I think Node.js is a lot more fragmented. Docker solves a very specific set of problems, and I think there's like a ton of really good keyword-rich blog posts you could write out of that.
Right.
And I don't know. I think being the Docker guy for a while doesn't seem like a bad plan to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning toward that, but at the same time, I think I have opportunity to reorganize and recategorize things in the Watch Me Code website to take advantage of the material that I have there. And some of that, as I'm doing the cataloging and categorizing of things, some of that may involve killing off old screencasts, just wiping out stuff that's no longer really a part of the focus that I want to have.
Or if you're going to do that, throw it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yep.
For free.
That's a
One
really
thing
good idea.
too is you can have this sort of like the lance in front of you that pierces so what I mean by this is like you can be the Docker guy, and that's like how you get, because it's trending and it's growing, like that's how you get people. And then once you get people, you show them the other stuff you have, right?
Yep.
That's one of the a pretty effective strategy. This way you can capitalize on this thing, and then it's related, right? All this other stuff, the JavaScript, the Watch Me, you get them into that, but you get them through the Docker.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.